I would like to announce the quorum is present, the meeting is duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The time is 6 p.m. The following board members are in attendance: Allison Lasan, Dr. Stacy Barker, Dr. Sheila Taylor, Catherine Sells, Michelle Akateb, Madison Lopez, and Jenny Prosnick. We will now convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071, 072, 074, 0823, and 089, and 21, excuse me. And the time is 6 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. The time is 7:04 p.m. Students from McCullough Elementary will now lead us in our pledges. Kindergarten, Mr. Felipe Amaral will lead us in the American Pledge, and kindergartner, Miss Eden Moreland will lead us in the Texas Pledge. Oh, I want one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
All right. You all did such a great job. Here are some fun facts about our pledge leaders. Here are some fun facts about Eden. Eden enjoys drawing, swimming, and PE. When asked what she wants to be when she grows up, Eden says she wants to be a mom and everything, and that is exactly what a mom does. Eden's favorite teacher is Mrs. Harper because she let her be the door holder on her birthday. Nice. And here are some fun facts about you, Felipe. Are you ready? Okay. It says here that you enjoy playing soccer and that when you grow up, you want to be both a mechanic and a rock star. And we have programs for both of those. Felipe says his favorite teacher is Miss Eckley because she's so nice. And I know Miss Eckley, and I concur. Thank you both so much. Are your parents here, or did you drive yourselves? Where's Mom and Dad? Stand up. Stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you. Thank you for partnering with us for your children's education. Welcome to all. Oh, y'all are so cute. The Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees meets monthly to receive reports from staff and take action on recommendations from the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation 10 days in advance of these regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions. The board also meets in regularly scheduled workshops and work sessions where staff discussions and presentations are given for many of the agenda items. This protocol means lengthy discussion or a litany of questions on every agenda item often is not necessary, and as a board, we should have appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of our meeting tonight. First, we need to consider action on items discussed in closed session. Personnel recommendations. For the Chief Student Officer, would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Sells. Oh, Ms. Lasan.
Thank you. I move that the board approve Will Skelton as the new Chief Student Services Officer as recommended by administration.
Is there a second? Dr. Barker? All those in favor? And that is unanimous, Mr. Skelton. The vote carries 7-0. Could you join us up here with your family? Congratulations, Mr. Skelton. Welcome to leadership team. Next is to discuss the Executive Director of Transportation. Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Sells.
Madam President, I move that the board approve Cleve Ryan as the new Executive Director of Transportation as recommended by administration.
Is there a second? Dr. Taylor? All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Come on down, Coach Ryan. Congratulations, Coach Ryan. Next is administration contract recommendations for school year 26-27. Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Lopez.
I move that the board approve all administrative contract recommendations for school year 2026-27 as presented by administration.
Is there a second? Ms. Alcatab? All those in favor? That carries unanimously. Vote 7-0. Next is consider approval of a resolution to declare and designate one LISD real property as surplus property and authorize the advertisement and sale. Would someone like to make a motion? Dr. Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the board approve a resolution declaring and designating the real property listed in Exhibit A as surplus property of the district, authorizes its advertisement for lease and/or sale, and authorizes the executive staff to take any and all appropriate action in regard to the lease and/or sale of the property.
Is there a second? Ms. Sells? All those in favor? Vote carries 7-0. Next is our recognitions and student spotlight. Dr. Barker will now present this month's Recognize Someone.
Thank you, Madam President. A parent shared about Mr. Colley and team at Prairie Trail Elementary. Mr. Colley and his incredible team facilitate and support absolute life changes for students in their care. They don't just teach, they love, care for, and cheer on the students they serve. Not every student enters school ready for learning. Some, like our son, have backgrounds that require additional support to feel safe and successful. Mr. Colley and his team quickly learned our son, adjusted to what he needed, and never stopped pushing him. They saw him as his whole person, and he is thriving. Congratulations, Mr. Colley. A parent shared about Coach Jenkins at Durham Middle School. I am writing to share appreciation for Coach Jenkins and the impact he has on his student athletes. Coach Jenkins consistently goes above and beyond, not just in developing skills on the field, but in fostering their growth as well-rounded individuals. His commitment to keeping parents in the loop with transparent communication is especially appreciated. He focuses on ensuring his student athletes are succeeding in the classroom and in life, not just in sports. I am incredibly grateful. Congratulations, Coach Jenkins.
And now Communications will share this month's recognitions.
Flower Mountain High School wrestlers shined at the UIL State Wrestling Tournament. The girls team finished second overall in the state, with 4 athletes placing in the top 10, including state champions Aisha Williams-Baptista at 170 pounds and Wayma Lactari at 190 pounds. On the boys' side, Liam Campbell earned state runner-up honors at 285 pounds. Way to go, Jags! The Marcus High School boys swim team had an outstanding performance at the 2026 State UIL Swim and Dive Meet. Competing against the best in Texas, the Marauders rose to the top, earning Lewisville ISD's first ever swim state championship title with a combined team score of 148 points. In the 200-yard medley relay, swimmers Hudson Roybal, Will Curry, Jan Warshalinski, and Landon Hewer captured the state title. In the 200-yard freestyle relay, swimmers Landon Hewer, Phil Pozziadlo, Will Curry, and Hudson Roybal also captured the state title. Individually, Hudson Roybal earned silver in the 100-yard backstroke, and Will Curry brought home silver in the 100-yard breaststroke. Congratulations to these incredible athletes.
Hi, good evening. I'm Coach Dion. On behalf of myself and my guys, I just want to thank Dr. Rapp and the board for y'all's support, particularly Dr. Barker, who hopped in the pool with us afterwards. I'd like to thank our athletics department, Coach Lyles, Coach Ford, and Coach Davis. And then also like to thank our Marcus admin, who also jumped in the pool with us. Dr. Kuntz did not know we were hopping in that night, wore jeans. It is about a half-mile walk back to his truck after that on a cold night. So that is a committed principal. Thank you, sir. Worth every step. There you go. All right, so just to quickly introduce my guys to you, if y'all wouldn't mind when they step forward, if you'll give them a quick 2 clap, please, we'd appreciate it. First, Captain Dean Choi. Perfect, thank you. Nathan Gerber, Patrick Wong, Will Slack, Hudson Roybal, Landon Hewer, Phil Pozziadlo, Will Curry, Connor Smith, Jan Warshalinski, and Zachary Bradshaw. Thank y'all very much.
Any parents?
Oh, and parents, if you're in the room, if you'll please stand.
Lewisville ISD is proud to announce that 62 high school band, choir, and orchestra students from across the district have earned the distinction of 2026 Texas Music Educator Association's All-State Musicians. Each fall, more than 70,000 high school students across Texas audition for this honor. Students advance through several rounds of competition, performing selected music for a panel of judges who rank each instrument and vocal part. Earning all-state recognition is the highest honor available to high school musicians in the state of Texas. Lewisville ISD was also well represented at the 2026 TMEA convention. 2 LISD ensembles were selected for coveted honor performance spots: Flower Mound High School's treble choir and Forestwood Middle School's tenor bass choir. To perform at this prestigious conference, both groups went through a rigorous selection process. The convention welcomed nearly 30,000 attendees from Texas and beyond, giving these students the opportunity to perform on a major stage. In addition, Flower Mound High School's string orchestra earned 3rd place in the TMEA Honors String Orchestra competition. Congratulations to all our TMEA performers and their directors. Your dedication and talent continue to make LISD Fine Arts one of the most respected programs in Texas.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for having us. I do want to just preface that this is the choir down here and the orchestra. These are just the band All-State students. I don't want to try to take any of their thunder. So this is Jimmy Lou, Julian Murray, Sam Guzman, Ethan Murray, Abby Ospa, Shalom Lee, Dami Jong, Haley Ziegenhorn, Josh Kloss. If their parents are here, will you stand up so we can recognize some of you? And then thank you to our principal, Mr. Chad Russell.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Swartwood, director at Flower Mound High School for the choir. This is Emma Shearer, also director. And we have 4 choir students I'd like to recognize. We have Ben Keg, Bella De Jesus, Isha Sayani, and Madison Faria. And these are our all-staters for this year. And if I have parents or former directors present, please stand and be recognized. And also thank you to our principal, Mr. Russell, for his presence tonight.
Center there. Congrats. Good evening. Congratulations to everybody present tonight on their accomplishments. To my right is the representatives we had from the Flower Mound High School Orchestra for All-State. I am Stephen Klink, the Director of Orchestras at Flower Mound. So we have, starting from my right, Fair Tian, Matthew Chua, Benjamin Bechet, Kenneth Nguyen, Aaron Choi, and Addison Chong. Also would like to give any parents present the opportunity to stand so we can recognize you for your support of these amazing kids. And thank you as well, Mr. Russell. Great of you to be here tonight. And also a shout out to Erin, who is a 4-year All-Stater, on her accomplishment.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy Seeley. I'm one of the band directors at Hebron High School. We've got a couple of staff members all the way down there on the end, Mr. Travis Pruitt and Mr. Brandon Slate, that are here with us this evening. And then our all-state students, pardon me, I'm going to have to look over here just a little bit. This is Jaron Joby. This is Sanvi Rana. This is Anthony Truong. You guys wave. Look dateable, okay? Okay, this is Charlie Harden. This is Stella Subalian. This is Patrick Trishan. This is David Meck. We'll drop down to the front row for a minute. This is Ian Wynn and Walker Carmichael and Aiden Pasternak and Issa Size. Going back to the back row, this is Vera Udani. This is Knox Keeney. This is Bergen Jones. This is Nick Velasquez. This is Easton Baker. This is Hean Doe. This is Ian Phillips. And this is Youngsuk Jang. And way over there in the corner, this is Colston Groves and Riley Boyd. And Logan Wheeler is not with us this evening. He was out sick. So this is our Hebron All-Staters. And then Dr. Bowden. Dr. Bowden, of course, thank you. And any Hebron parents in the audience, please stand.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Zetterstrom, and I teach alongside with Alex Carr at Hebron High School, teach choir, and it's my privilege to introduce our All-Staters to you. Our first All-Stater on the far end is sophomore Liberty Rodriguez. She was first alto in the All-State Treble Choir this year. And then the next three were all in our mixed choir. Elise Brown, she is a senior, and she was a soprano 1. Aiden Johnson, who is a junior, he was a bass 2. And Harper Knight, another sophomore, and she was an alto 2 in the Texas All-State Mixed Choir. And we're proud to have our principal, Dr. Amy Boughton, here. And any parents that are in the room present for these 4, would you please stand?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Jones. I serve on the band staff at Marcus High School, and we're thrilled to recognize our all-state students this evening. Before we do that, I want to say thanks to Dr. Rapp and the board for your steadfast support of arts education, and of course, our amazing district leadership and campus leadership. Up with me tonight, from your left to right, junior on French horn, Marlo Johnson. Senior on tuba, Caleb Coddington. And 4 all-state percussionists, senior Jacob Bailey. Senior Jason Hu. Junior Santiago Diaz, and sophomore Brenner James. I know we have several family members here tonight. If they could stand so we could recognize them as well. This never happens without them, so we're so thankful for their support. So, Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wes Davis, and I'm the head choir director at Marcus High School. I want to thank you all again in school board for acknowledging our students. We really appreciate this, acknowledging their hard work. This year we have 2 all-state choir members. We have Sam Swindle, sophomore, and Makai Williams, sophomore. And if we have any parents, we'd love to thank you and acknowledge you as well for your support, if you would mind standing at this time. There we go, photo.
Good evening. We have Edward Huang, senior violinist, and yes, give him a round of applause. Such a competitive process. And then Ian Kim, senior cellist. We're so proud of them today, and if their families could stand up. And then thank you to Dr. Kuntz for all of your support.
Good evening. My name is Michael Larkin, and this is Kelly Wilson. We serve on the band staff of the Colony High School. This is Tim Baxter, our principal. We had 2 that made it. One of them was unable to make it. His name is Kalen Arnquist. And here tonight we have Sonny Munoz. And any parents in the audience, please stand and wave. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kateri Lavacek, and I'm the choir director at Forestwood Middle School. We have with us as our representatives Charith Basnayaka and Gavin Manning, and we had an invited choir to the Texas Music Educators Association in February.
I am back. I have some high school ladies here tonight. They were involved in the varsity treble selected ensemble called Con Fuoco, translated to With Fire. And yes, and we sang at the TMEA convention in February, and this is our very first time making it to the state level, so we are very proud. And we have Isha Sayani, Melody Johnson, Bella De Jesus, Madison Faria, Paige Bennett, Talia Stites, myself, and Mashir. Thank you so much.
Well, I am just deeply honored this year. Good to see you again, that the Flower Mound High School Chamber Orchestra was part of a very rigorous process, the TMEA Honor Orchestra process. And in that process, they are a statewide runner-up and placed third in the state. What a credit to their hard work. There's around 50 in the ensemble. I brought with me tonight our section leaders who are just so instrumental in their student leadership in this process. That is Aaron Choi, Angela Pan, Benjamin Bechet, and Matthew Chua. Congrats.
All right, good evening. My name is Alex Carr, and I, along with Catherine Zetterstrom, direct the choirs at Hebron High School. And we have with us four of our singers from the varsity tenor bass choir who sang at the Southwestern ACDA Conference, which includes several states, Texas and those other states around Texas. And so with me tonight is Eric Bumgardner, our student director, Aiden Johnson, bass two extraordinaire, Nathan James, our choir vice president and section leader, and Aaron John, our choir secretary and section leader. If there are any parents who would you please stand and be recognized as well? And we'd just like to extend our thank you for your support and continued support for the fine arts here in LISD.
Lewisville ISD was named a Career and Technical Education District of Distinction by the Career and Technical Association of Texas. This esteemed recognition celebrates exemplary leadership, innovation, and commitment to student success through high-quality CTE programs. The district's dedication to providing students with valuable skills and experiences align with our community's focus on workforce readiness. Congratulations, LISD CTE team. Lewisville ISD recently earned a top honor from the Texas Association of School Business Officials. The district's purchasing department received the 2026 TASBO Award of Merit for purchasing operations. Recognizing its commitment to professional standards and procurement, the award highlights efforts to streamline operations, comply with regulations, and set the standard for responsible use of taxpayer dollars. Only 84 districts in Texas met this year's criteria. The district's purchasing team was honored at the TASBO Annual Conference in Grapevine on February 25th. Congratulations.
I want to recognize the team. We got on the end, Sharon Haney, Sarah Enos, Nikki Trice, Candace Schmidtke, June McMahon, Starla Johnson, and Elizabeth Free. And this year was the 16th year in a row, and for the year that the award was given, this team was led by Craig Martin, who is now retired. So.
Well done, everyone. Next up, we have our superintendent update. Dr. Rapp.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you so much. Pleased to bring you this month's update. First of all, we would like to thank all of the work of our staff who support the annual LISD Chin Festival led by Dr. Alexis Miller. We want to thank LHS for being such a great host for this each and every year. We're on our 15th annual Chin Festival and, of course, recognizing National Chin Day in February. Then we also had our 8th annual LISD HBCU Fair. Want to thank also the staff. Great planning committee. I know several of them are here in the audience with us this evening even, and then also led by the work of Dr. Alexis Miller. I just want to thank her and the planning committee for such a great event. Heard so much good feedback about the way the sessions were structured and just the opportunity for juniors and seniors this year to come learn more about HBCUs. And we're proud to have people from other districts visit our district to learn about how to put on an HBCU fair. And then in my report on connection with students, I have enjoyed going around and reading at schools as we celebrate Read Across America or Dr. Seuss Day. We know absolutely that reading is fundamental to everything that a student can do and achieve, and I appreciate our schools putting so much of a focus on that. We also enjoyed celebrating the robotics competition. I know some of you were there. I may have missed you coming and going, but Ms. Alcatib and I were there at the same time, and Ms. Prosnick and I were at Bridlewood for reading, but I know you all are supporting those efforts around the district as well every month, and congratulations to Donald and Bridlewood that tied at that robotics competition. So that was very exciting. I got to count down when it was time to do the last competition. They assured me I would count down correctly. I had to redo it 3 times. So, but nonetheless, it didn't impact it, and the kids did a great job. And then we also enjoyed celebrating, of course, and recognizing Black History Month. Appreciate all that our campuses have done throughout the month of February. And then I always enjoy meeting with my high school student advisories. I do want to give our high schools also, from student advisory to student councils, a little extra shout out on the work they did to recognize our school bus drivers as well during the month of February also. Then for connection with staff, I always enjoy being with our staff through lunch with Lori, getting to hear their feedback, questions, and comments, and just spend time with them. And then brand ambassadors we've met with recently. Of course, we have a new brand ambassador class for staff every single year. And they go back and meet with their principal about what they're learning regarding our organization. And then when we come back from spring break, we will launch our what has turned into annual Thank a Teacher Week. So looking forward to all the many Thank a Teacher cards that come from our students directly as they completed that in their fall survey, and looking forward to celebrating our teachers as we open up the last 9 weeks of the school year. And then we know when it comes to connection with the community, that's so very important. Of course, our schools are always working to engage our community and have them in our schools all the time. I want to say thank you to the Flower Mound Chamber leadership class that allowed Ms. Prosnick and I to come speak. They were hosted at Tech West, and Mr. Gilbreth and Mr. Moreno do such a great job of hosting groups and taking them through, and people get to see in real time why we are a district of distinction. We also, I've seen tons of social media from many businesses in our community about Career Out. So we'll have more statistics and numbers for you next month, but I saw a great post from Medical City Lewisville, just giving, and DATCU actually, just really recognizing the students and what they were learning and having that opportunity. So appreciate our business community celebrating our students and educating our students. Then we were, of course, many of us at LEF's Dishing Up Dreams Gala that just happened recently. I appreciate the work of that gala planning committee and all that they did to make that happen. And then we just recently also celebrated the opening of the playground that is near Hedrick Middle School. And I know the naming committee is still working on names for that park, but on the sign right now, it says Hedrick Wrangler Park. And then parent advisory, of course, I enjoy the opportunity to engage with parents from across the district about just their questions and any issues that they want to discuss. As I always do, just want to report on our monthly newsletters. Our click rate for the superintendent newsletter was 8.71%. In February, the most clicked links were calendar, our Recognize Someone submission page, and our professional learning calendar. That was for the staff newsletter. And then with the wrap-up, the most clicked links were calendar, professional learning calendar, and employee perks. Sorry, that's the staff newsletter. The report is the community newsletter. I do encourage people, those only come out one time every month, so I do encourage people to stay informed and engaged by reading the report when they receive it, or for staff reading the wrap-up when they receive that as well. And then our compensation communications, just wanted a brief touch base on this. Of course, Board, you committed compensation adjustments for several teacher and staff groups, those specifically resulting from groups that the legislature did not provide enough funding for, or the TEA definition did not pay them the same as a classroom teacher, even though in the past they were positions that had received those raises. So those communications will be going out. And then also this week, there will be an email specifically to each impacted staff member letting them know about that compensation adjustment and confirming that for them. We wanted to be sure and get that out this week. It has taken time to be sure that we're identifying all the staff correctly and that they have time to ask HR any questions they may have before we leave for spring break. We also are celebrating a low teacher turnover rate for this year. Sorry, that one for Carrollton Farmers Branch scooted over. But if you look at our teacher turnover rate at 16.9% among large school districts in the DFW Metroplex, we maintain a very low teacher turnover rate, and the average turnover rate at the state level is 18.8%. We know that our efforts like Thank a Teacher, where our teachers feel recognized, or that Recognize Someone submission has helped our whole entire community and our student body appreciate our teachers. Dr. Miller and the communications team gave you all an update at the work session about the work that they're doing this year on the I Choose and why LISD is the choice for education. And we've got some upcoming campaigns regarding recruiting staff, and along with our job fair on March 28th and specific advertising for that. And we are of course gearing up for spring enrollment, whether it be pre-K, kinder, or just general enrollment to our school district. And that is the update for this month.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rapp. Public comments are next on the agenda. Those who wish to speak at a board meeting often expect a dialogue with the Board of Trustees. However, in accordance with Texas law, the board is not able to respond directly to comments or questions posed by speakers. Texas law also does not allow the board to discuss or take action on any issue presented during the public forum unless the item has already been posted for action on the meeting agenda. Each speaker will receive a written follow-up from the district in the next 3 business days. The board and district administration welcomes and values the feedback shared during this time of the meeting, and we are grateful for the continued partnership between LISD, the families, and the communities that we serve. Lewisville ISD stakeholders, meaning current students, parents, employees, residents of Lewisville ISD, will have up to 3 minutes for each presentation. We have 3 speakers tonight. Mr. Jason Martin.
Good evening. Congratulations, by the way. Good evening, President Prosnick, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Rapp, and fellow community members. My name is Jason Martin. I'm a resident of Flower Mound and a parent deeply invested in Lewisville ISD's future. Tonight, I speak not just for Old Settlers Elementary, but for every campus and every child affected by the proposed relocation of DAEP and accelerated programs from the Centralized Student Success Center. The SSC has been a beacon of focused support, a single point where specialized staff, resources, and interventions are coordinated efficiently. It serves students removed for serious reasons, assaults, threats, weapons, persistent misbehavior, with targeted education and restoration, while accelerated programs help advanced learners thrive. Centralization allows consistent, high-quality delivery without diluting expertise across scattered sites. As of March 8th, yesterday, I've emailed the board the current petition with 212 parent signatures and growing, signed by parents who oppose this co-location. Our community-led website, keeposesafe.com, has seen over 1,630 visits since January, showing how quickly families are informing themselves and mobilizing. I'd be happy to share screenshots of these metrics to demonstrate the real engagement and concern. Splitting these programs to multiple regular campuses eliminates that central strength. It breaks from the market norms of high-performing neighboring districts that keep such services centralized for safety, equity, and effectiveness. Decentralizing strains limited resources, reduces specialized attention for the very students who need it most, and risks disruptions to nurturing elementary and secondary environments. This could weaken LISD's competitiveness, drive families away, and accelerate enrollment declines. As you yourselves proclaimed during School Board Appreciation Month, our future is public. Let's honor that by keeping our public schools strong, competitive, helpful, and committed to serving every child well through proven centralized models. Before I close, I would ask that you'd allow me just to take a moment of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight seeking your wisdom and guidance for this board. Grant wisdom in all decisions, clarity in their deliberations, and hearts open to the voices of parents, students, and our community. Help them think deeply and prayerfully about what preserves safety, equity, and excellence for every child in LISD. May their choices reflect your truth, justice, and love for the vulnerable. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for listening and your dedication to our children. I urge you, keep the Student Success Center central. Keep our future public and bright. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Keith Diggen.
Good evening. My name's Keith Diggen. I'm a parent at Old Settlers Elementary. My wife and I just purchased a home in August, in large part because it feeds into Old Settlers Elementary. Since December 2nd, in that email that came out announcing this proposal, you've had 10 different presentations come here and give their opposition or raise questions and concerns about the proposal to take the DAP program from one standalone building all together and section it out into 6 different campuses, commingled with the general education students. And you've heard the concerns and the questions that have been raised. A lot of it's been about transparency, or the lack of transparency of the decision, the lack of a plan, the lack of communication, letting us know how this might play out. How is this proposal going to accomplish the sight and sound barrier that's under the law? What are the financial considerations? What went behind this proposal? We know there's a budget shortfall. We know that that's the case, but we want to be involved in this decision and know exactly what we're getting ourselves into. And behind all of these issues and all these questions and concerns is the safety of our kids. And when you read through and you see what kids have to do to get put into the DAP program, you read things like assault and weapons and drugs and alcohol. And I come from a family of teachers. My wife is a teacher, my mother was a teacher, my aunts are teachers, I've got cousins that are teachers, family gatherings, I hear about teaching all the time, and I hear stories about teachers who have had experiences with kids who are placed in alternative school programs like this. And you hear stories about kids that bring a knife to school and threaten someone. They find the knife in the backpack, or kids that assault a kid in the bathroom, dunking his head in the toilet or roughing him up. And we just want to know how this is going to be accomplished with the Sight and Sound Barrier. We want to know what it's going to look like. And obviously we oppose this, but if this is going to go through, we just want to know what are the separations going to be? Is there going to be a separate entryway and exit? How are things going to be separated when it comes to visits to the nurse, or fire drills, tornado drills, intruder drills? And we want to know these things so that we can make informed decisions about what we're going to do for our child's safety. And when we put him off to school, we want to know that he's safe. What times are these going to be the beginning of class and the end of class and dismissal? How is that all going to be carried out? So we ask that thank you for this, putting it off, it seems. We ask that you keep considering these things and keep us informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Digin. Caitlin Cruz?
Good evening, Board and Dr. Rapp. Thank you for hearing from me again. I am Caitlin Cruz. I'm a Lewisville resident and current disability advocate. Tonight, I just want to highlight one of the bullet points on our special education update, because Lewisville ISD, unfortunately, has been rated as significant disproportionately year 3 for the use of out-of-school suspension for Black students with disabilities. And it's concerning to me to see, because when I was employed by LISD 2016 to 2019, I was an SDI instructor, and I was also quickly trained into being a BASE teacher, behavioral academic support education. And I remember in that training that was a response to how discipline action was being taken with students of disability of color. And we created a program to service this issue. Now, I know that students of marginalized communities systematically have a hard time being serviced in school equitably, and that's why we have laws and legislation around protecting them. And so I don't think this is just an LISD problem, but my concern is that from my former teaching perspective and now as a community member, it seems like a recurring issue, not just a year 3 issue. And while we may have made growth, I assume that it's something that's a grow and fall back. And I know that out-of-school suspension is never taken lightly in this district. And so I'm assuming even these cases are very nuanced and particular. I am just here to say I think it takes doing new, radical, and innovative things to see things happen in history that have never happened before. And I just ask that this board continuously work at doing those new and radical things to equitably service everyone in our district. I appreciate the work that you do, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Moving on, consent items. Are there any items to be pulled, or would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Sells.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda item, or consent agenda as recommended by administration.
Is there a second? Ms. Alcatab? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Vote carries 7-0. Next up are our information items. District Improvement Plan and Long Range Plan Update. Dr. Miller.
Good evening, y'all. Happy to share our progress on our DIP strategies and long-range plan scorecard measures. This is a follow-up to our February check-in. So remember, we did November check-in, and then we came with y'all in December. So we've now done a February check-in with campuses and the district. And so we're here to give an update on that. Just a reminder that our staff survey, we pulse them 3 times a year, so we do have update on staff information, but our student and family surveys, we only do twice a year, so we don't have updated information on that at this time. I'm going to be very brief about student learning because y'all are about to have a big update on student learning from Dr. Fuccio and Ms. Gall. So, but they will highlight several strategies that we've used in our DIP. We're still seeing progress in all areas on our scorecard. Reminder that the red means we started a new assessment this year, and also math is an end of the year criterion, and so that is why you don't see as much progress as the other, but they will dive into all of that for y'all. And then our readiness are looking really good. We've hit a lot of them. Our middle school, again, when you look at that, grades are mostly what that brings that down, which they are working on, and you'll see that pick up as we go through the semester. For student experience, we have really been working on our positive learning environment, continuing that support, and also for attendance, loss of credit, those kind of things, and giving individualized support to campuses that are needing help, and we're seeing great gains in the measures that we are using. I think this one, we had some recommendation trackers that we have also completed looking at APs are doing behaviors PLC to talk about certain codes that they're doing, and also they had a CBC collaboration on for behavior coordinators. Again, all of those are coming in really strong. Noted from our December until now, the student involvement, remember half of it includes surveys, but we don't have updated surveys on student involvement, so that has remained the same. And then how the Senate Bill 12 and getting permission before you can participate in a club we have heard has been impacting club participation. All right, and then resource stewardship, y'all are part of all of these conversations for resource stewardship, so none of these are surprising to you. We did have some excitement of getting a grant, LASSO grant, some of that, as well as getting some reimbursement back that we weren't quite planning for, and so those have made great gains. And then we did signal out a change for this one that you'll see on our scorecard from in the fall. So we have we just updated a new unwrapped video where we break down the dollar bill and what does that look like within LASD that we are pushing out. And then we started including polling in our newsletters to get some more timely impact. And then we are testing the AA bot. I know if you go to our website, you see it pop up. We are getting great data on what people really want from our website, and then we're able on the back end to tailor that. So if this is a key question, we'll make sure that that information is accurate and up to date in there for them. So we're getting great data on that as well. All right, and then, yeah, so you'll see there that change was the breaking down the dollar bill and then bringing people. So we had lots of bumps in our visitation from that. Okay, then goal 4 is for staff and recruitment, retention, and developing of staff. And so we continue with our different pathways of building our own, and also have started residencies, which you heard about in an update earlier this year. So continuing with that. Something that we learned from Long Range Planning Committee and from our listening circles were people were not aware that we actually did exit surveys whenever they leave. Now, an exit survey is like an autopsy, so they've already left, so you can't really do much about it now. But we do look at those in themes. You all get those, and so we are having those conversations of if those are the right things to do, or maybe something different next year. But a lot of people didn't know that we did that and look at that information. And then Lewisville was 4th largest district in our comparison group. So if you recall from earlier when we did when HR did an update, that our comparison group includes districts around our size as well as much smaller districts. And so when we pulled out all of the large districts in the DFW area, we actually came in 5th of all of those, and we're right there in line with the other top ones in the 16th percentile. So on one side, this slide it says 4th, but we're actually 5th. So just to make sure y'all caught that, weren't confused. So there is our update on our scorecard measures for Goal 4. And then I've just made a note that 5th is part of our subgroup of all the large DFW areas. Right, and then community engagement, we just did a presentation last week about most of these things, so you're aware of those. This is the one we did signal out 2 changes in the fall, and so those are intentional feedback and following up with things once we hear about surveys. We're putting them back in our newsletter for the next month. If we ask this question, here's what we heard from y'all and what we're doing about it. And then really our listening circles have given us so much information and feedback that the Long Range Planning Committee is processing in order to help us move forward. All right, so there's the update on those. All right, and then we will come back in June with our last update for this long-range plan, because this was, we'll close out this section of the long-range plan, and then you're about to get a student learning update, and then they'll come back in June as well. And then just a reminder, part of the recalibration process, we'll come back at the work session in April to provide an update on the long-range planning committee, and then you will hear at the end of April the drafted goals and measures and that kind of thing that we're thinking about. With that, any questions?
Are there any comments or questions? Dr. Barker?
Thank you, Madam President. I'll keep it brief because I don't have much of a voice anyway. So whenever I see metrics tracking, however it looks like for an organization, in this case a scorecard, when you see a lot of green, you start to get a little nervous. Right? Like, are we measuring the right things? Are we getting valid measures? All of that sort of thing. But that's what's so beautiful about having a long-range plan that goes over multiple years, because if you go back and look, these things were not always green. And now we have this recalibration process that's going to be able to look at this and say, there are some things here that we no longer need to track. We can move on from those things. Or we can set the bar a little higher, change the target, or, and I've been a part of all of these long-range sessions, and this last one, we really dove into what the future might look like, and to really dig into what are the things that we're not measuring yet that we should be. So I just say that as, for those of you that may not know this, this is not a common practice in all districts. The way that Lewisville does this is absolutely beautiful, and it's one of the reasons that I love partnering with you, Dr. Miller, and the rest of the administration. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much, Dr. Miller. Next is our special education annual update with Ms. Litchfield and Ms. Clark.
Good evening, President, Board, and Dr. Rapp. Ms. Clark's here to share our annual update. Maybe.
Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay, now that I have my pencil and my mic, we're ready. Good evening, board members and Dr. Rapp. Tonight I'm pleased to share an update on the state of our department. I'll be walking you through our recent performance indicators, celebrating our successes of our students and staff, and outlining our strategic next steps. I'm proud to start by sharing that our overall 2025 special education determination status meets requirements, the highest level of determination possible. Before we dive into the specific data, I do want to give you a little bit of context to anchor our conversation. You may occasionally see some data points that seem contradictory to one another, and that's because the way special education evaluated is on a number of different measures. So the Texas Academic Performance Report is a snapshot in time of certain data indicators. It includes some special education components, but it also has a lot of information that we enjoy reviewing throughout the year about all of our student performance. Our state performance plan is one that overviews federal indicators for special education, and it really is a yes, you met the criteria, or no, you didn't meet the criteria. And so on those, you're either compliant or you're not compliant. The report that we put probably the heaviest amount of weight in, because it's really focusing on how do we help our students and our program grow and develop, is our results-driven accountability report, which gives us a scale of performance levels. So we can be a level 0 all the way up to a level 4. Our ultimate determination level goal, excuse me, is a level 1, and that level 1 means like you are on par and you're doing great, which we are. Go team. So those are sort of the context. So when you see something contradictory, or that seems contradictory, that's going to give you context for that. And I will say that the state performance plan is on lag data. So our current SPP indicator reports is on our 23-24 data points. So you will see that RDA is current, SPP will be previous. Moving into our local data, I have graphed out our special education process, student numbers in the navy columns, bars that you see, and then in red are the state trend line, and in yellow are our national trend lines. So for LISD, you can see that we have continued to grow at a slightly faster rate than our national and state counterparts, and that over that course of time, we are getting a little bit sharper on that increase as we've seen the addition after the state of Texas was put in corrective action for having a cap on the maximum number of students in special education. And then a few legislative sessions ago, we started the transition of dyslexia from Section 504 into special ed, and we also saw a steep incline there. So this brings us to our total population. As of our October snapshot, we were at 9,570 students with IEPs, which is about 20% of our student body, was 19.99%. Within that population, we are seeing some good things happening. Highlights of our programming on both state performance plan and results-driven accountability indicators are that our early childhood students are attending a regular early childhood program and receiving the majority of their services with non-disabled peers, which meets the state target. And at the school age level, we're doing a great job keeping students out of separate restrictive settings. We were just shy of the state's target. The goal is for 70% of our students to be in a general education setting for 80% or more of the time, and we were at 79.6, I believe, on that one. Just a little bit of room to go. We did meet the target for keeping students out of separate settings, so those very restrictive settings where there's no access to general education peers, with just 2.2% of our populations accessing those services. We will continue to collaborate with our general education partners to ensure our students have maximum access to their non-disabled peers and, importantly, Tier 1 instruction. Overall, our data is showing that we have a strong commitment to inclusion and having our students learning alongside of their peers. Academically, we do have a lot to celebrate, particularly with our high school students taking the biology and U.S. history EOC end of course exams, where we achieved the highest possible performance level on results-driven accountability. Based on our state performance plan data, our assessment participation rates were also excellent, meeting targets at over 98% in math across all grade bands and in reading for grades 4 and 8. However, we do see that for high school reading participation, we fell to 82.1%, missing the state target. And for reading proficiency, we met the state performance plan targets for regular reading assessments across all grade levels. Our TAPER snapshot data shows that currently 55% of our special education students are at the approaches level across all subjects on STAR, with 28% reaching meets. While we're making progress in many areas, our department is closely monitoring our STAR 3 through 8 math and social studies performance at our middle school level. And collaborating on interventions to improve outcomes. We are specifically addressing implementation of Tier 1 instruction in our classrooms, curriculum implementation expectations, that aligns with our Tier 1 instructional practices, and ensuring that our students are participating in district-wide assessments, so we're getting clear pictures of how our students are performing. Now we're going to look at how we're doing with keeping students on that path to graduation. Across the board, our numbers are incredibly strong. In our most recent data, we hit a graduation rate of over 87% while keeping our dropout rate down at 1%. Whether we're looking at state or federal measures, we are meeting and often exceeding the target set for us. This tells us that our support systems are working. We're keeping our students engaged and ensuring they walk across that stage. Of course, graduation is only one part of the equation. We want to ensure that our students with IEPs, that their diploma is backed by a solid plan. I'm proud to share that we achieved 100% compliance for our transition age students. This means that for every student age 16 and up, we aren't just guessing at their future. Our case managers and our transition specialists have worked to ensure each student has coordinated, measurable goals built into their individual education plan to bridge that gap between high school and whatever comes next. Preparing our students for life after Lewisville ISD is our ultimate goal, and we don't want them to just graduate, we want them to thrive. Our post-school outcomes are showing that we are doing that for our students. Within just 1 year of leaving our halls, over 80% of our former students are actively engaged in higher education, competitive employment, or specialized post-secondary training, whether it's the 35% pursuing a degree or the 2/3 of our students who are already out there and workforce ready. Speaking of life after LISD, when we look at our overall college, career, and military readiness outcomes, we see that nearly 73% of our students from supported in special education graduate and are meeting at least one state indicator, whether that's through dual credit, AP exams, or industry certifications. The vast majority of our students are leaving us with a head start on their next chapter. There's a deeper layer to this data called the College Career Military Readiness Outcomes Bonus. The state sets a very high bar for the students that are able to achieve this outcome bonus. So for a lot, you have to get to a particular percentage before you get payout. For special education students, that bar is set at 0%. So for every student that we're able to help achieve that college career military readiness outcome, then we are getting a payback, a bonus in our pocket, which is really a win-win because they're getting a higher level of success and we're getting funds to help support that for future students. Turning to behavior and discipline, the district is hitting its marks. We've met our state targets for suspension and expulsion rates, and on a federal level, we aren't seeing any major red flags across the board based on the state performance plan indicators. In fact, our total disciplinary removal rate is 24.3%, which earns us a performance level of 1 on our results-driven accountability report. So from a high-level view, we're doing well. However, when we peel back a little bit and we look at individual student data, we do see that our significant disproportionality indicator pops out for our students who are African American. So for those students, we are seeing that they are experiencing nearly 3 times more out-of-school suspensions than their counterparts. And we're also seeing that they're about 2 times greater likelihood right now for in-school suspension greater than 10 days. So with our current status of significant disproportionality 3, we do have some work to do, which I will dive into now. So just a little refresher on, I got a little clicker happy. So looking at what significant disproportionality is, under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, every state has to monitor significant disproportionality. Essentially, it's that red flag that pops up when students from a special racial or ethnic group are being identified, placed, or disciplined at much higher rates than their peers. There's a total of 98 indicators that were measured on. So it's not just about one bad year, it's cumulative. Once you hit year 3 of that same performance is when we start looking at different options that we engage in. Again, our data shows that our African American students are being suspended at a rate that's significantly higher than other groups in special education, and we've seen that long enough that it's triggered this corrective actions. So the Year 3 designation requires us to set aside and dedicate 15% of our federal funds to address the discrepancy. The funds are utilized to assist us in digging in to our discipline practices and implementing improvement strategies that ensure all of our students are supported and kept safely in the classroom. So I want to look at our roadmap for what we planned to deliver on for this school year for 25-26 regarding significant disproportionality. In December, we submitted our strategic support plan to the Texas Education Agency. The plan is our framework for reviewing the how and the why behind the disciplinary practices and what we're doing to ensure that we're approaching student discipline equitably. In implementing the plan, we've been very busy. One of our big wins has been expanding Safe and Civil Schools training. We've now successfully trained all of our LISD campuses in Safe and Civil Schools and have teams and participants at every campus. We're also getting much more tactical in how we are approaching support at the campus level. We've been able to deploy registered behavior technicians who are able to work directly with our staff in classrooms to provide intense training and supports for student behavioral needs in order to reduce student removals from class. Our Safe and Civil Schools teams are organized in cohorts based on need, with our first cohort going through year 1 of Safe and Civil School training this year. Cohort 2 has been working through year 2 implementation, and so it's taking the training they had last year and applying it. And then cohort 3 are our campuses that have the higher likelihood of contributing to SD based on the data that we've reviewed. And so they are working through intensive sessions with Dr. Tricia Berg, our consultant from Safe and Civil Schools, to really dive deep into what are those underlying root causes at their campus and what are we doing to intervene for those. And so it becomes more of an individual conversation instead of a generic tier 1 conversation. This work has also been heavily supported by Dr. Linda Peterson, Special Education Director, our Coordinator of Behavior and Compliance, Amy Orison, and our MTSS Administrator, Lisa Cranfill, as well as all of our departments, behavior interventionists, school psychologists, and special education counselors. The most exciting shift, however, has been seeing our campuses launch our behavior PLCs. Instead of just reacting to discipline issues, we're now seeing, as they've started implementing that, some proactivity in addressing the needs that are arising on their campuses. We're seeing more conversations asking what's the data telling us about attendance or discipline, and how can we build better tier 1 systems to help prevent things from occurring in the first place. And Kelly Roden during Principal U and APU has been phenomenal at helping us roll out and deliver training on behavior professional learning communities. While this evening is a special education update, I do want to take a moment to also highlight that this work is not being done in a vacuum. In fact, I could not do it alone or by myself. We have really leaned into our partnerships with student services, our schools chiefs, counseling, professional learning. Everybody has really worked together to build a robust plan to address student needs. We've really tried to anchor and continue to anchor in our One Vision framework, allowing us to move beyond just managing behavior into focusing on truly creating a positive learning environment for our students. We want every student to feel safe, connected, and supported. When the climate is right, that learning will follow naturally. In that same vein, we're continuing to provide support to our in-school suspension and positive learning environment aides via targeted support that focuses on proactive strategies and remediating needs for students so that we don't have recurrence in school suspension and out-of-school suspension. This work has been further supported by Dr. Alexis Miller, our student engagement coordinator, and she and Lisa Cranfill have partnered a lot this school year to ensure that we're getting well-rounded services. On this slide, you can see our current student outcomes. Before we dive in, I do want to remind everybody that this is on a 2-year lag. So the data that you see is, for example, in 2024 is from the behavior discipline reports from the 22-23 school year. So looking at the main chart, you'll see the breakdown between African American students in Navy and our total special education population in gold, who have received removals of 10 days or less for out-of-school suspension. While you can see a reduction in the 2025 report, there's a notable spike in 2026, which was the 23-24 school year. This spike is following the legislative mandate to remove students in possession of e-cigarettes, which impacted discipline across the board for all of our students. In the smaller graphs, you can see the makeup of mandatory versus discretionary removals. The top chart is for all ethnicity, races except for African American, and the bottom chart is for our African American population. You can see that the number of mandatory removals has surpassed the number of discretionary removals for our African American students and has been trending upward. I do want to make a note that there is no such thing as a mandatory out-of-school suspension, which is the area we're targeting, but those out-of-school suspensions are attached to pieces that typically lead to DAEP or JJAEP placements, and so in the interim of investigating or awaiting that placement, out-of-school suspension was utilized. So the e-cigarette mandate is behind us. That changed in the most recent legislative session, but we will be navigating additional disciplinary challenges with the addition of out-of-school suspension options for our K-2 students, as well as our students who are experiencing homelessness. And then also the state has removed the limitation on in-school suspensions, which may have a negative impact on our SD outcomes as well. So what are we doing next? We have had the opportunity, thanks to all of you, to do a lot of planning on what are our next steps? How are we really going to take the theoretical pieces of safe and civil schools and implement them on our campuses? So we're really shifting on how do we build capacity, how do we implement and make sure that every team on campus is feeling equipped. We're planning several avenues for professional learning, including a summer behavior summit, which we did a few years ago and has been requested to have back quarterly learning sessions with our cohorts and implementation of turnkey professional learning opportunities at the campus level, with the goal of during a staff meeting, you have a quick 5 to 10 minute quick professional learning about a specific area of a safe and civil school strategy, and then that's our focus that we are working to deliver on over the course of the next month, those types of things. We're also getting more intentional, getting our feet on the pavement. We are working with Kelly Roden and the professional learning team about incorporating safe and civil schools into our walks on campuses to see, are we seeing this strategies in action? We also want to build in the behavior PLCs and really help campuses continue in that work as they have started analyzing their own data and getting very comfortable with those platforms. To make sure this isn't happening in a vacuum, we've deployed cross-departmental teams, again, working with our schools chiefs, student services, counseling, all of those folks to really help ensure that our feeders and our campuses are feeling supported all around. We're going to stay grounded in the data and ensure that we're continuing to look at the data and not getting comfortable and stagnant in those. And then before we move on to a few legislative updates, I want to take a moment and acknowledge that the progress and efforts that we've been able to make as a department and across the district is really in thanks to Ms. Litchfield and her support, Mr. Kaj, you guys as the board, you all are supporting the work that we do, and if you aren't providing that support, we can't have that impact on students. So I want to thank you all for that. So to wrap things up, there's so much in special ed. I do want to give a quick update about some major legislative changes that have had an impact on the department. You've likely heard about Senate Bill 2 and the launch of the Texas Educational Freedom Accounts. Essentially, this has created state-funded program where families, specifically those of students with disabilities, can access up to $30,000 in an education savings account to help cover the cost of private school or homeschooling costs. So to qualify, a student has to have a current full and individual evaluation and a specific type of individual education plan in place. Even though these students are moving toward private options, The LISD and our department is responsible for the evaluation and the development of the plan that these families need in order to apply for and be granted the funds via these education savings accounts. So how is this impacting our department? If you look at the referral numbers on this slide, you'll see a significant trend. Last year, we had 43 private school and homeschool referrals by late February. This year, that number has jumped to 74 in the same time frame, which is greater than the total number of referrals we had for private and homeschool last year. In addition to the increased evaluation demand, the Texas Comptroller's Office placed the responsibility of submitting applications for students who've not been enrolled in Texas public schools on the school district special education department to complete those. We've been receiving 2 to 3 requests a day to get those completed, and lots of emails and phone calls from parents requesting unique IDs and information. The Comptroller's Office also gave us about a 6-week window from February 2nd to March 17th to complete those applications, and there seems to be no grace for spring break, so we will be continuing that work while we are on break, but we will do it. And then the last legislative impact, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a little bit of a positive note we can end on. We have seen some impacts during the legislative session via House Bill 2 that we believe have the potential to positively benefit us. The state is moving from a one-size-fits-all model based on your instructional arrangement to a needs-based model based on what we are providing our students with disabilities. We still don't know entirely what that looks like because they're still building the plane that we're going to fly, but we are hoping that this allocation will help us a little bit. They also are giving schools $1,000 for every initial evaluation that we complete. For context, last year we completed about 1,700 initial evaluations, so you're looking at a good sum of money back. The cost of an initial evaluation can vary anywhere between $650 if it's a basic speech evaluation for articulation, or it could be anywhere as high as $5,000 or more, especially if you're getting physical therapy, OT, lots of disability areas. So while it is a little bit of money to help offset some of the cost, it's not covering the full cost of those evaluations. And then finally, the last positive piece is that they did double the college career military readiness outcome bonus from $2,000 to $4,000. For any of those students that were able to meet that outcome, we will be able to recover a bit more funding for those. In closing, while we face the new legislative demands and work to address our discipline data, the core of our work remains the same, ensuring every student in LASD has a clear, viable path to independence. The progress we've shared tonight is a testament to the hard work of our staff and the unwavering support of our district leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe we have some questions from the board. Ms. Lasan.
Hi, Ms. Clark. Thank you for your presentation. So I'm going to say it before anybody else asks it. I'm guessing we're not getting any money from the state for those referrals that you're going to have to do over spring break and
$1,000.
Huh?
No,
Sorry.
it's a growing opportunity for us.
A growing opportunity. You are so positive. I love that. Okay, so just a couple of comments. This is really probably this is not questions for you, but just, when you talk about the STAR scores and such, that's one thing that has just always frustrated me about STAR related to special ed kids. And I, experienced this myself, is that really, first of all, we all don't like the STAR for general ed kids, but it's even worse for special ed kids, because they're not designed for them. Way back when my son was in elementary school, there was a modified test. And that one he did fairly well on. But, for, that point forward, they can take it in their own, they can get, accommodations for it, but not for the meat of the test. And so that's, it's just really unfair. It's unfair to the kid, it's unfair to the school, it's unfair to the district because it reflects on, the schools are reflected. And so, to me, it's like if a special ed kid does well on a STAR score, great. If they don't, we're going to look at other things, you know. That's my opinion. I know we have to look at everything, but there we go. The other thing I just wanted to say, and this is probably, you know, you guys have heard me say this before, but I just wanted to say that LISD in particular does a fantastic job of, you know, of transitioning kids from high school to the job, to their next step. We have a fantastic, you know, group that does that. My experience with that with Project Search, my child graduated from high school within about 6 months of his graduation, was permanently employed full-time and is still permanently employed at a wonderful, place. And that was due to, my husband and I talk about this all the time. If it hadn't been for LISD and Project, not all districts have Project Search or things like that. So if we hadn't had that, I don't know where we would be. And so we're just all so grateful for that. And, so thank you for all the hard work that you and your staff do. You guys are doing great things.
Thank you.
Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam President. I do want to echo my colleagues' comments that we do a good job of taking care of special ed students here in this district. And I can't remember, I know we make a significant investment over what we receive from the state, but I can never remember what that number is.
At our last financial update, it was $4.3 million.
So again, that tells you that how important that is to us to serve our students in that area. I do have questions, of course, on the significant disproportionality. My first one is related to, and I know you said the years have a lag, the 2027 estimate at 219.26. How does that compare to the estimate at 219.25? Just to see where we're trending.
Okay, so the 2026 one is based on our discipline data from last school year. The 2027 is until 1 week ago.
Gotcha.
So that number will likely increase throughout the duration of the school year. I just wanted a picture of what it looks like right now.
Okay.
And I anticipate it will also be high because we still had a significant number of like e-cig removals and things like that that impacted.
Okay. And I have a couple of questions, so I apologize. My next question is, have you been, I see the plans that we have in place, and I loved how you talked about specific targeting for getting those numbers down. Have you been able to identify which categories the disproportionality is occurring in? Is it identification? Is it placement? Is it discipline or some other specific category?
It's discipline specifically.
Okay, it's discipline specifically. Okay, do you see any intersectional not twins, where'd that come from? Trends between, I guess, gender, is that?
We have not looked at that to investigate.
Okay, my next question is, I see our plans to address it, and obviously I'm not a teacher and I haven't dealt with special ed, but is there something different in those strategies that we didn't do in year 1 or year 2?
So I think the difference that we will have moving into next year is you all have really helped us invest in an infrastructure to have boots on the ground in classrooms, supporting and coaching. Right now, we've had a lot of classroom-based instruction when we do safe and civil schools, and we have a lot of theoretical. And so moving into next year, our goal is really to take it and move it into action. And my team and student services and everybody really working to get folks implementing and meeting the students where they're at in classrooms and the teachers where they're at.
Okay, and then this wasn't a question of mine, but you mentioned that the specific category that you saw that contributed to this factor the most had to do with placement. Is there some specific training around using placement, or is it all based on because the state made a law about the e-cigarettes? Is that like really skewing the data?
I think it is skewing the data because it made DAP placements mandatory, and so students were being removed to out-of-school suspension based on what I'm seeing, but I can look more into that.
Okay, and then this is my last, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. The thing I was going to add, Dr. Taylor, is one of the reasons why the graph about mandatory removals is that is something we've got to dig into more, and you see those percentages go up. So now, when we're reaching a point where you've got 52%, almost 53% of DAEP placement is mandatory, we don't have a lot of room when it comes to mandatory.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things we're going to have to investigate further is what those mandatory placements are for, and what kind of educational opportunities do we need to provide for families? Because really, when it gets to that place, if it's mandatory DAEP, if it's mandatory JJ, that's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
So that is for sure a trend that you see in that data that we are going to have to dig into.
Gotcha. And then this is my final question. What's the timeline to exit the significant disproportionality status?
So there's not a specific timeline. In order to exit it, you have to have required improvement, which is an indicator that they will report on the results-driven accountability. It's not super clear how any district achieves that. So they will continue to look at our data, and we are playing a bit of a guessing game.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. And then you have the whole changes with RDA and that moving into the general accountability system. So that just throws another level of uncertainty there, right?
So many growth opportunities.
Absolutely. That wasn't my comment, but I wanted to let you know there's more changes coming. So first of all, I'm glad that you discussed the cost of evals. So I was already thinking, right, that this is an underfunded mandate. This is my new favorite term, underfunded, because they think it's funded. They'll say, well, it's not unfunded. Oh, it's underfunded. Anyway, but I didn't even consider, and just as you were speaking about it, it made me think about it, the development of the plan also takes time and money that is not incorporated into that $1,000, because that's our man hours and our expertise and our paperwork, et cetera,
Correct.
without any additional funding attached to it. Then you add on this whole application business. We're going to have overtime hours, clearly, because we've got people that are going to be working over spring break, unless they're salaried, and then, you just eat it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's what I have to say about that. The other point that I want to make is, y'all know I'm the data geek, right? So a couple of things that I really dug into. And the first one has to do with our general CCMR numbers. We are a little bit below the state, right? That 72.8% is great. The state's sitting at 85.1. I would assume, based on all of our conversations, that might be because of the rest of our fellow districts' over-reliance on college prep courses, which we are not over-reliant on here in LISD. And one of the reasons why I think that that's the case is because when you look at the other indicator, which to me is much more interesting, and I actually dig into it quite a bit on a regular basis because of what you said about it. So when you look at CCMR outcomes bonuses, this is, like you said, a dually positive thing. It ensures that our students are ready for what comes next. It's a higher bar than what the general CCMR is. And it's a revenue-producing target. So any special education student that hits that target, the state sends us money to go back into our programming. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that they're doing. And the reason why I think it's important to call attention to that particular data point is when you look at the state's outcomes, bonuses for our special education students, about 4% of the state's special education students across the state, about 4% achieve that marker. Here in LISD, it's 8%. That is double the state's percentage here in LISD. That is something to really be celebrated. So congrats to your team on that. Now, of course, you know me, I'm about continuous improvement, right? So then I went looking,
We can always be better.
who's above us, right? So I'm really interested to hear what some of those other districts that are getting slightly better, in some cases moderately better, percentages than us. So thank you so much.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? First of all, I concur with Ms. Lasan. I think you all do amazing work, and I think the fact that 20% of our population in LISD comes through your department is incredible, and the work that you do. I also am concerned about the disproportionality, and I want to know if we have looked at campuses, campus-specific, to where that disproportionality is occurring. And so when we talk about targeted improvement, et cetera, are we focusing those efforts on those campuses?
Yes, ma'am. That's our Tier 3 cohort for safe and civil schools that we've been specifically having Dr. Berg work with.
And I know you showed the data here for last week. Have we seen on those campuses, because I think sometimes it gets distorted when we look across the district instead of looking at specific campuses. Have we looked at those campuses, see if I can say that fast 3 times, have we looked at those campuses specifically to see if we at least see a trend downwards? And I understand that most of it is automatic placement. But have we looked to see what that is and how we are communicating, as you mentioned, to parents, et cetera, to let them know what the expectation is?
I did not before this meeting, but I can get that data.
I'd appreciate it. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Next up is Student Learning Update with Dr. Fitzhugh.
Good evening. This is our second student learning update for this year. We are going to check in on how our middle of year data performed with iReady, and then check in on CCMR as well. On October 20th, all the campuses and the board goals came forth, and then we revisited in November 10th with beginning of year data. Just as a reminder, this is year 1 of us using iReady as an assessment, and so that's kind of one of the conversation pieces we'll have. So when it comes to reading, you can see here at middle of year, we have shown significant growth from beginning of year. All of our student groups have shown some improvement as well. This does not include IEP data. We do add that in at the end of the year to see how some of our students have progressed with their specific goals. When you look at campuses and how they've grown, we've seen significant growth. We now have 2 campuses that have already met their end of year target here at the middle of year. At the beginning of year, we had 14 campuses that had 30% to their goal, and we're down to 0 with that. And so we do think that we're on target for the majority of our campuses to meet their goals. This is just a quick update. The dashboard, the EdGen's dashboard, has been updated to contain the iReady data now. What it indicates is that 93% of our 3rd graders are on grade level or have shown progress at this point in the year. Again, we're on track, and then just below that is the iReady Math widget as well. As Dr. Miller referred, here's our long-range plan goal referenced. 40% of campuses at the beginning of year indicated a minor change. So when we talk about all of the green that you saw on the district scorecard, we do have campuses that are individually adjusting and making changes based on what their data is showing. We met with campuses again last month after the middle of year data. While they didn't signal out, we did go over all of their data and their student groups, and they reflected on the strategy if they indicated a change, even if they didn't indicate a change, to see if they needed to shift gears and how was the change they made working. This is probably one of the best graphs to look at in terms of seeing how our data has changed over time from beginning of year. This is part of the iReady little dashboard that we have. But if you look at the little bottom smaller line, that shows you the percent of students that at the beginning of year were kind of in that green area of being on grade level, and that was at 51%, and right now we're at 68%. You can see the shrinking of the red area. So we are having students progress. Even if they're not on grade level, they're moving into the yellow. We are closing gaps. Part of the legislation that was passed this past summer included us updating the board on kinder to second. data. And so what you can see here, middle of year, again, we're measuring at the end of year target, but middle of year, 76% of our kindergartners are where we would like to see them be at the end of year. We've increased to 56% of our first graders and then increased to 59% of our second graders. Their graphs are very similar to the one I showed. We are showing students progressing into that green area. When we look at math, you can see here that we have seen growth over time. Math is a little bit different than reading. The specific content's really important in the order that it's taught, and we're only halfway through teaching this school year. So while we're seeing growth, we're not quite seeing as many students at end of year level here at middle of year as we did with reading. But what you will see is we do have one campus meeting their end of year target, but if you look at that very bottom one, we had 28 campuses that had more than 50% towards, needed more than 50% growth to get to their goal, and we're down to 3. So we are seeing campuses move through the process. It's just a little bit slower than the reading data. Just like with the reading, we had the campuses reflect on their math goals at the beginning of year and indicate if they needed to make a strategy change. We had the same conversation at middle of year, and you can see that we're having our campuses 34% are working, well, actually, if I add those, it's 57% of campuses are doing some sort of change with strategy, working on how do we instruct and have kids meet the goals. Just like the reading one as well, you can see that green growing and the red shrinking here on this one. I made a little note on this one. At the time of this test, we had only completed 2 out of 4 testing domains, so that's half of this year's curriculum, which we were halfway through the year, so that makes sense. We do anticipate seeing growth. I think the thing that happens, and if you'll remember back to our prior instrument, we really have to focus in calibrating where our curriculum aligns and what we expect to see. This is just year 1. We're still watching it very closely. When end of year comes in, we're going to see what adjustments need to be made, and does the iReady standard match align with all the other end of year indicators that we use as well. For kinder through second, again, you can see growth. First grade has a little bit of growth, not as much as you saw with reading, but we are seeing progress with all of our grade levels.
Thank you, Dr. Fitzhugh. I would just like to be able to share some information regarding the learning and teaching support, but that also does include support from many departments, as you know, across the campuses. Our facilitators have responded with 3,100 coaching sessions for all of our campuses, and that is an increase from last year. We also want to mention that our tiering of the campus support for our 12 high-needs campuses, where they receive 4 days consecutively every other week from a rotation of math and language arts, has really been a great return on investment. We've been able to have our learning facilitators participate in PLCs, modeling, looking at rehearsals with teachers, and then being able to really reinforce the HCHIMs at our high-priority campuses that we've identified. We, if you'll advance this slide, we have also, beyond the coaching, we've provided a new round of iReady training to all of our teachers to help them respond to their middle of year data with their small group instruction. The instrument is new to each of them, so it was very important that we get in front of them with our trainers to be able to provide them with timely information on how they can analyze their data, and then not just analyze it, but respond to the data, so that our students who have their personalized paths in iReady can adjust, and they can give on-demand instruction and make sure that they are on target for continuing the growth that we are seeing at each of those campuses. The content administrators, along with our learning and teaching folks and our chiefs, as well as professional learning, have continued to do joint walkthroughs with campus leadership, looking at those specific high-yield strategies that are aligned to the long-range plan, and then supporting our most at-risk student groups. As you know, we've been participating in lead forward walks with some of our leaders, looking for TEKS alignment, student discourse, protective struggle, and then making sure that our data-driven instruction is aligned to the highest yield strategies and the TEKS that are most frequently tested. And then we've completed all of our trainings for our one vision that we had on the long-range plan for the instructional framework, which gives our teachers a consistent roadmap for academic clarity and conversations, and it highlights those most important instructional strategies that we've been identifying as we've been training them this year. I'll turn it back to Dr. Fitzhugh for CCMR.
So we have now completed our, well, almost completed our college-ready exam participation counts. We do have a little bit more TSI that will happen here in the spring, but what you can see is that across the board, we have campuses administering all of the different assessments to give students as many opportunities during the school day as possible to participate and meet standards on the college-ready exams. What that really leads into is if you look at that bottom row there, that's seniors engaged in CCMR, what you can see is that we are up at 90%. All of our numbers, our students really, this number was down at 70s, and we had some real big gaps at one point in time. You're seeing that we're having more students throughout this year participate. We've really closed the gap. Students are engaging in the activities. If you look at the top row there, seniors that are meeting, we still have a lot happening right now. A lot of the CCMR activities are in the senior year type of completing courses, AP exams, those types of things, but we are seeing gradual increases in all of our student groups in terms of processing through the CCMR. When you look at local readiness data, we are very, we're performing really well in those areas. We've always been high when it looks at all the other different measures that possibly measure CCMR. This looks at GPA, it looks at advanced courses, it looks at being engaged in extracurricular activities, and so what you can see across the board is that our students are engaged in activities that have them ready for the next step.
Okay, so that's a very lengthy slide. I will highlight some of the main points. As you know, we are very appreciative of your support in really focusing on student engagement in this CCMR process and not restricting them from exploring their interests. So we continue to provide those opportunities to discover, and we're grateful for that. With CTE offerings, you know that we've created some easy access program guides. They have expanded the CTE offerings. We're including that in the LISD Everywhere launch so that there are additional opportunities for students to stay engaged and be completers. And then, of course, due to the TEA change, there's no providers for the college prep math, but we will continue to offer that and continue to support our students through being able to be successful on TSI as a part of those courses. And then looking ahead, we are going to explore, let me make sure I advance this slide. We're going to make sure we're continuing to explore ways to increase participation in our dual credit, AP courses, and then work collaboratively with all of our dedicated team from learning and teaching, assessment, counseling, the chiefs, and of course, our extraordinary campus leaders and teachers who support that academic growth. And we'll continue to keep you updated for the end of the year, which is we'll be back here in June to report out on.
I do think one interesting thing to note right now is that TEA is making a proposal to create different levels within CCMR and approaches meets masters that will change some of our strategies. It's supposed to be put in place for the 2028 accountability system, which is our seniors for the class of 2027. So while it says accountability 28, we really have to figure it out now. The biggest piece with it is, much like the whole system, it's scaled. So depending on how they combine those approaches, meets masters, and create the scaling mechanism, that really is what is going to tell us kind of the action points we need to take. But basically what is happening is that AP dual credit are just in approaches now. You have to have an AP dual credit and a college readiness exam in order to be a master's level. So they're looking at having more than one pathway. CTE has to be paired with a CCMR. So there's lots of different pieces there. Again, it's a proposal, but we feel pretty sure that it will make it through the system here, and it will impact next year's students because that's what's used for 2028. We will be back in June with another update.
Are there any comments or questions? Dr. Taylor.
I'm sorry. I do want to say the numbers look great, especially with reading. I was very excited to see that. I had a question about the CCMR readiness because I looked at it by cohort and understanding that they are still in getting ready to finish some of those things, right, that they haven't gotten to with the end of senior year. And I know that this is some of the information, I feel like it lagged or something that you mentioned about that. But why, and maybe this is not an issue going forward, but are there some, I guess I'm trying to understand why the numbers are so much lower for the African-American students, Hispanic students, and if there are some opportunities there.
So some of the indicators, I can't speak to exactly why the causal relationship of it, but I can say that a lot of the indicators we're working with our campuses on is being more proactive early on to make sure that we're closing gaps versus waiting until senior year to try to get students to take the TSI, to get them in their first AP class. So we've started that work even with this long-range plan. When you look at how we're talking about advanced courses, how do we keep kids in advanced courses so that way they do the dual credit their junior year? They complete the dual credit their AP year. And so we're seeing some of that trickle up. That's one of my guesses. The other thing is that sometimes students just need that extra time. College prep math and reading, which we are using a little bit at some of our campuses, can't happen until senior year as well.
With respect to AP classes and dual credit, are both of those at a cost to students? Is it cost prohibited? You know, when I look at the socioeconomic numbers?
They both are at a cost. If the students qualify as economically disadvantaged, there are some reduced rates and there are some different ways that we can help offset the cost for some of them. But both of those do have cost in terms of the AP test or the dual credit course and materials.
My only question, and I probably don't know what you would have said, when are we going to know from TEA what this accountability is going to look like?
I believe the manual has to be published here soon. That was one of the new rules that was applied. I don't know when the scaling tool has to be published, and that's really what is going to tell us more. The approaches meets masters is kind of one of those things, but it's how they scale it that will ultimately impact.
So will that be pages added to the 279 pages for accountability that already exist?
I mean, I feel like it has to be an ad because I don't think they can streamline anything when they put that in, so yes.
For that very simple accountability system that everybody's supposed to be able to understand, it will probably be over 300 pages long, would be my guess.
Mhm. Yes, easy night reading.
Love the transparency. Thank you very much, Dr. Fitzhugh. Next is our monthly technology report. Dr. Derricani.
Yes, good evening, President Prosnick, Dr. Rapp, and Board of Trustees. The monthly technology report for March covers the period of January 1st through January 31st of this year. On page 1, our 2017 technology bond program funds are at $96.7 million spent, with $5.4 million remaining. I would draw your attention to the increase in the balance remaining that was due to the recent sale and revenue that was generated from the residual value of the district's surplus technology equipment. For I-fees, revenue is up with a total of $742,000. Cumulative expenses for this fiscal year through January is now at $90,000, leaving a balance of $3.4 million in the I-fee fund. Regarding the average age of devices, pre-K through third increased by, pre-K through third increased by 1 month to 1 year and 9 months from last month's reporting. The average age of devices for grades 4 through 12 increased by 1 month, reaching the 2-year milestone. And finally, for staff devices, the average age has increased to 2 years and 2 months. On page 2, our opt-in percentage is at 99.06% for students in grades 4 through 12. And finally, for the month of January, we see the average daily bandwidth per student is down slightly, and average daily bandwidth per student while on campus remains consistent with previous reporting. With that, I will try to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any comments or questions? Ms. Lasan?
I usually don't have one, or we don't usually have one for you.
We need to mark
so
this occasion.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure, I feel like we didn't make enough big a deal about this. So you're saying that the sale of our repurposed equipment was for over $4 million?
About $500,000 coming. It was a difference. Is that not what I reported?
No. I'm just asking. Well, on this chart, it says.
No, it was 4.8 balance was reported last month, and so now we're at 5.4 million. So
okay.
That's about $400,000.
Okay, I was getting really, because I didn't remember what it was last month, so I was getting really excited. But we usually do pretty well, selling that stuff. So anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garricani.
Thank you.
Next up are our discussion items. First up is our monthly financial report, including the bond report, land sale report, and the monthly investment summary. Mr. Rare.
All right, good evening. The monthly financial report in the board book is for financial results as of January 31st. Tonight I want to highlight the monthly investment report, which can be found on page 323. The monthly investment report meets all the requirements of the Public Funds Investment Act, and those include, you'll see a summary of investment totals by fund, the type of investment, whether it's investment pool or CDs or money market, also the maturity date for the investment if it has a maturity date. We've also included the monthly interest rate that you can see and how that compares to our benchmark, which is the U.S. Treasury rates found at the bottom of the schedule. And then you'll also see the beginning and ending value for each of the investments with the monthly transactions. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions? Very good investment report, Mr. Ware.
Thank you.
Next up is district-wide intruder detection audit report findings. Mr. Garrett.
Good evening to you all. For the month of February, we did receive intruder detection audits from the TA at Camey Elementary School, Hebron Valley Elementary, Independence Elementary, LHS Kilo, Liberty Elementary, Parkway Elementary, Southridge Elementary, and Tech East with no findings. And we'll be back next month with that. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer it.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Garrett? Thank you so very much, Mr. Garrett. Next up are action items. First step, to consider approval of Rockbrook Elementary School Targeted Improvement Plan. Ms. Litchfield.
Good evening again. Just a few reminders. The staff initially brought the information to you on October 6th, and then we submitted our initial tips to the state in November. We still haven't received any feedback from those yet, but they are in there. Then we brought back the information to you on February 2nd. We had a public hearing on February 9th, and tonight we're here to ask for board approval of our plans before we resubmit to the state, and they're due March 17th. And so just a reminder really quickly about Rockbrook is that they are concentrated in the intensive curriculum and instruction improvement portion. And so any questions?
I have to have a motion first. Can I get a motion?
Oh, sorry.
Any? Yeah. Ms. Sells.
I move that the board approve the targeted improvement plan for Rockbrook Elementary School as presented by administration.
Is there a second? Ms. Lasan. Discussion. Are there any questions? Dr. Taylor.
And this comment is for all. I'll just put it here. I just wanted to acknowledge, since the principals are in the room, that we understand, the tremendous pressure that you have on you with respect to the turnaround campuses and the plans, to just let you know that the board is supportive. And I know that the staff is supportive, because I heard things about, leadership coaching and staffing flexibility. But if there's anything that the board can do from a policy standpoint, and dare I say budget, I don't even know if I should say that, but that we are here to support you. So I just wanted to make sure that that was said. And then the last thing is, I know we're going to get report outs regarding the turnaround plans. And I know we also get reports about teacher vacancies, but I would love to get specific reports on teacher vacancies at the turnaround schools, just so we can monitor that.
I do have one question, which have there been any modifications or updates to the targeted improvement plan for Rockbrook since it was presented to the board in February?
No, ma'am.
Very good. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. The vote carries 7-0. Next is to consider approval of Huffines Middle School Targeted Improvement Plan. Ms. Litchfield.
Yes, so Huffines was also concentrated in the intensive curriculum and instruction improvement portion. They did bring the initial plan to you on October 6th. We submitted it in November. We brought back on February 2nd. And then we had a public hearing on February 9th, and we're here tonight for board approval.
Very good. Would someone like to make a motion? Dr. Taylor.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the targeted improvement plan for Huffines Middle School as presented by administration.
Second, Ms. Lopez. Any discussion? I'm going to ask the same question I asked before. Have there been any modifications or changes to the plan that was presented to the board in February?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? and that is unanimous. The vote carries 7-0. Next is to consider approval of Lakeview Middle School Target Improvement Plan. Ms. Litchfield.
Yes, Lakeview is also concentrating the intensive curriculum and instructional improvement. Once again, we did bring the initial plan to you on October 6th. We submitted the plan in November to the state. We brought back to you on February 2nd and had a public hearing on February 9th, and we're here tonight for board approval.
Thank you very much, Ms. Litchfield. Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Alcatab.
I move that the board approve the targeted improvement plan for Lakeview Middle School as presented by administration.
Is there a second? Dr. Taylor? I'm going to ask my question for the third time. Have there been any modifications or changes to what was presented to the board in February?
No, ma'am.
All right. Are there any other questions? I want to make sure anyone else. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous. The vote carries 7-0. Consider approval of Lewisville High School Targeted Improvement Plan. Ms. Litchfield.
Yes, once again, board, the Lewisville High School plan, the triad, all are concentrating in the intensive curriculum and instructional improvement portion. And they brought the plan in October 6th. We submitted in November, and then brought back to you on February 2nd with our public hearing on February 9th. And we're here tonight for board approval.
Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Lopez.
I move that the board approve the targeted improvement plan for Lewisville High School as presented by administration.
Second, Dr. Barker. Any comments or questions? I'm going to ask it for the fourth time. Were there any modifications or changes to the plan that was presented to the board in February?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? That carries unanimously 7-0. Next up is to consider approval of amended District of Innovation Plan. Dr. Miller.
Yes, the District of Innovation Committee met for a public hearing last Monday on March 2nd, and they proposed 2 additional amendments to the plan, and then the committee held a vote. So the proposed amendments were Amendment 7 was about student grievances. That was in response to Senate Bill 12. And then Amendment 8 was about employee unpaid leave. And when the committee voted, all of the ones present voted in favor of Amendment 7, and then 20 out of 21 voted in favor of Amendment 8. And there's a draft of the language of the amendments in board book.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion? Dr. Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the board approve the proposed plan with the incorporated amendments as presented by administration.
Second. Ms. Sells. Is there any questions or discussion? Dr. Barker.
I just wanted to thank my fellow policy committee members, Ms. Prosnick and Ms. Sells. We, as a policy committee with Ms. Bay and Dr. Rapp, were able to put together some language around some of these policies to present to the DOI committee. And I also appreciate the DOI committee approving these amendments so that we can move them forward in our policy.
It is a very thorough process. Are there any other comments or questions? With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Vote carries 7-0. Next is to consider approval of a resolution nominating one candidate to serve on the Denton Central Appraisal District Board of Directors for Place 4. That's me. What I will speak to this is that the Appraisal District Committee met, which is Ms. Lasan, Dr. Taylor, and myself, and we are bringing forward, we are brought forward a name to the entire board at the work session in draft form, and we're codifying it here tonight. This would be to serve out Ms. Palmacal's term on the board. Ms. Palmacal passed away, therefore leaving a vacancy. This is a nomination. The DCAD board will then decide via all the nominations who will fill out that term. So with that, would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Lasan.
I move that we, the Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees, adopt the resolution nominating Dr. Buddy Bonner to serve on the unexpired term of Place 4 of the Denton Central Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Second, Dr. Taylor. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, was there any discussion? Absolutely.
I just wanted to thank this committee. I'm not on this committee, but I know that the work that went behind this. And sometimes when you're put in that position and you've got a very short time frame, sometimes you got to turn over a lot of rocks to find somebody that you feel like is qualified, that you also would be encouraged by their hopeful placement on there. And so I just wanted to thank the committee because I know that you all had a lot of discussions. I wasn't part of them, but I know y'all were meeting all the time, and so I was like, oh, please, let somebody come through. And I just want to say thank you all for not giving up.
We are very lucky to have found a qualified candidate. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? That is unanimous. The vote carries 7-0. Next, if there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and the time is 9:16 p.m. Have a pleasant evening.
See you later, Chief. You were already a chief, so that really didn't hit funny at all, but I tried.
It's okay. I appreciate you.
Yep.
Chief Student Services
Chief.
Officer?
Something like that.
Chief Officer? Okay.
SSO.
When do we boot him out of this? I almost did it tonight. I almost was like, what? Dead to me, but then you would have missed.
But Lori always says something first, like, best of luck, we're going to miss you, and then she removes right away.